welcome back to Reading with Miss Michelle. Today we're going to read Wayside School is Falling Down by Louis Sachar, Chapter 12. If you have a copy, go get it so you can read along with me. Don't forget to help us out by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with all of your friends. Chapter 12. Pencils. Jason borrowed a pencil from Allison. When he gave it back to her, it was full of teeth marks. Allison held the pencil by its point. "Yuck," she said. "You chewed on it." Jason felt awful. It was very embarrassing to borrow somebody's pencil and then chew on it. "Sorry," he said. "I didn't do it on purpose." "You can keep it," said Allison. She dropped the pencil on Jason's desk, then raised her hand. "Mrs. Jules, can I go to the bathroom? I have to wash my hands. Jason slobbered all over my pencil." Everybody laughed. Jason turned red. "I'm sorry, Allison," he said. "I know it's a disgusting habit. I just can't help it." "Don't let Jason touch any of my books," said Allison as she headed out of the room. "He might eat them." Everybody laughed again. "Here, you can eat my book, Jason," said Todd. "I don't like it anyway." Mrs. Jules made Todd write his name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Jason was so mad at himself, he broke the chewed-up pencil to bits. This wasn't a smart thing to do. "Everybody, take out a pencil and a piece of paper," said Mrs. Jules. "It's time for our spelling test." Jason slapped himself on the forehead. "I'm so stupid," he thought. "Rondi, may I borrow a pencil, please?" he asked. Rondi made a face. "All my pencils are new," she said. "How do I know you won't eat it?" "I won't," said Jason. "I promise." "You better not," said Rondi. She gave him one of her pencils. It was new and freshly sharpened. Jason liked the way it smelled. "The first word is orchestra," said Mrs. Jules. Jason tried to remember how to spell orchestra. He stuck the back of the pencil in his mouth. "Second word, garbanzo." Jason chewed on the eraser. When the spelling test was over, Rondi's pencil was worse than Allison's. Jason looked at it in horror. He didn't even remember chewing it. "Oh no," he thought. "What am I going to do?" He stuck it inside his desk. "Jason, may I have my pencil back, please?" asked Rondi. "What pencil?" asked Jason. "The one I lent you," said Rondi. Jason opened his desk and pretended to look for it. "I don't know where it is," he said. "Mrs. Jules, Jason stole my pencil," called Rondi. "Jason, give Rondi back her pencil," said Mrs. Jules. He gave it to her. "You chewed on it?" exclaimed Rondi. Everyone laughed. "No, I didn't," said Jason. "Those are your teeth marks." "How could they be my teeth marks?" asked Rondi. She smiled. She was missing her two front teeth. "So?" said Jason. "You don't chew pencils with your front teeth. You chew them with your back teeth." "How do you know?" asked Rondi. Said Jason. Mrs. Jules made Jason write his name on the board under the word discipline because he chewed Rondi's pencil, then lied about it. "And try not to eat the chalk," she said. Everyone laughed. Rondi threw the chewed-up pencil out the window. It hit Louis in the head. Mrs. Jules gave Damien a stack of worksheets and asked him to pass them out. They contained arithmetic problems. Jason had to borrow another pencil. "Allison, may I borrow another pencil, please?" he asked. "Eat my socks," said Allison. That wasn't such a bad idea. Jason realized if he stuffed a sock in his mouth, he wouldn't be able to chew a pencil. Myron looked at his worksheet. "I don't feel like doing this stuff," he said. "Here, Jason, you can have my pencil." "Thanks, Myron," said Jason. "I promise not to chew it." He hoped he'd be able to keep his promise. He thought about asking Mrs. Jules for a Tootsie Roll Pop. If I'm sucking on that, I won't chew Myron's pencil. And a Tootsie Roll Pop would probably taste better than Allison's socks. He didn't know for sure because he had never tasted Allison's socks. But before he could ask Mrs. Jules called him. "Jason, will you come here for a moment?" she said. "I think I know how to keep you from chewing pencils." Jason smiled as he walked to her desk. "I like the purple ones," he told her. But Mrs. Jules didn't give him a Tootsie Roll Pop. Instead, she taped his mouth shut with heavy-duty masking tape. She had to use a lot of tape because Jason had the second biggest mouth in class. "There," she said. Jason started back to his seat. "Aren't you even going to say thank you?" asked Mrs. Jules. "Mm-hmm," said Jason. "You're welcome," said Mrs. Jules. "Hey, Jason," teased Allison, "you look like a mummy." "Don't sneeze," said Rondi. "You'll blow your head off." They both laughed. Jason said back to them. It was a very bad thing to say. He wasn't supposed to use words like that. "You better not pull that tape off," said Rondi. "You might rip off your lips." They both laughed again. Jason had never been more embarrassed in his whole life. His ears burned as he set to work on the arithmetic problems. They were tough problems. Several times the pencil crashed against the tape, but the tape held firm. Mrs. Jules was very proud of herself. Not only did the tape protect Myron's pencil, but Mrs. Jules also noticed that Jason was quieter than he'd ever been. "I should tape all their mouths shut," she thought. Then they'd all be so nice and quiet. It was such a good idea, she wondered why no teacher had ever thought of it. The end. Thanks for joining me for Chapter 12. Please check back for Chapter 13. Don't forget to help us out by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with all of your friends. I hope you join me next time. Bye!